The objection you hear from your prospect isn't real. Let me say it again. That objection, that thing they're saying that makes your stomach drop and your brain freeze, is almost never the real reason they aren't buying from you. It's a smokescreen. It's a defense mechanism. And for most insurance agents, it's the end of the road. They hear, I need to think about it, and they believe it. They hear, I need to talk to my spouse, and they believe it. They hear, that's a little more than I want to spend, and they believe that too. And the second you believe that initial objection, you've lost. The sale's over, and you just don't know it yet. But what if you could see through it? What if you had a framework that could instantly tell you what was going on in the prospect's mind? Today, we're going to talk about how to overcome every objection you will ever hear in your insurance career. Not with cheesy one-liners, not by being pushy, but with a bulletproof framework that turns resistance into your single greatest closing tool. In this video, I'm going to reveal why the objection you're hearing is almost certainly a lie, and I'll show you how to find the truth. I'm going to give you a simple 4-step process to dismantle any objection with surgical precision and unshakable confidence. And most importantly, I'm going to give you the fundamental mindset shift that will make you stop fearing objections and start welcoming them as a clear, undeniable path to closing the deal. And don't worry, this isn't about memorizing 100 different rebuttals for 100 different scenarios. That's what amateurs do, and it's a losing strategy. I used to think I had to remember all these clever lines, and it blew up in my face. This is not about getting into arguments or being pushy either. This is about a simple, repeatable process that puts you back in control, builds massive trust with your client, and helps you close the deals you've been letting slip through your fingers for years. When I was early in my insurance career, I had this belief that I could just talk down objections. I thought for every objection a client could possibly have, there was a perfect, clever, silver bullet response that would magically change their mind. I was convinced sales was a battle of wits, and I was determined to win. So I spent all of my time studying. I memorized all the lines from the sales books and the gurus, and I had a rebuttal for everything they said. Price is too high? I had a line for that. If they said I need to talk to my wife, I had a comeback for that too. I walked into every call thinking I was a master debater, ready to counter the point they made. And I never forgot this one call. I was working with a prospect, a successful business owner, and I put together this incredible proposal for him. It had everything. Higher liability limits to protect his assets, an umbrella policy, disability insurance to protect his income. It was a perfect plan. And at the end of the presentation, he hit me with the classic objection. That looks great, George, but I just need to think about it. Inside, I was thrilled. I literally thought to myself, here it is, the objection I practiced for. So it's my time to shine. So I leaned in and hit him back with a slick, confident rebuttal I'd memorized. I said something like, I understand, but top executives like you are paid to make big decisions. Let's make one today. I thought it was brilliant. I thought he'd be impressed by my confidence and my take charge attitude. Well, he wasn't. There was this long, dead, uncomfortable silence on the phone. And then he said, you know what? I'm going to think about it. And the more I think about it, the more I don't think I want to do business with someone that talks to me like that. And then he hung up. I was absolutely crushed. My perfect, unbeatable line had just detonated the entire deal. It felt like a punch to the gut. I'd done everything I was taught to do, and it failed spectacularly. That's when I had this massive realization. I spent all my time preparing for the objection, but I hadn't spent a single second trying to understand the person. I was treating the sale like an argument to be won, not a problem to be solved collaboratively. I realized that a lot of the objections you get in the close could have been handled or prevented way before you ever got there. It's more about figuring out why the person is saying what they're saying and where they're coming from. I learned right then that handling objections wasn't about having the right comeback. It was about having the right process. It wasn't about what you say after they say no. It was about everything you did before that to earn the right to ask for the sale in the first place. Here's the fundamental problem I see with how 99% of insurance agents handle objections. When a prospect puts up resistance, agents fall into one of two traps, and both are catastrophic for the sale. The first group of agents are doormats. The second they hear any hint of resistance, like, I'll think about it, they immediately retreat. They say, okay, sounds good, I'll follow up with you next week, knowing full well that the prospect is never going to answer their phone again. They're so terrified of confrontation or feeling pushy that they abandon the sale that was probably 90% of the way to the finish line. They set up a follow-up appointment just because they felt uncomfortable asking for the close, and then they're shocked when the prospect ghosts them. The second group does the complete opposite. They become debaters. They puff out their chests and they go into argument mode. They try to prove the prospect wrong with facts and logic, trying to force them into submission with superior knowledge. They think sales is a fight and they're determined to win. It becomes this adversarial you versus them battle, and let me tell you, even if you win that argument, you will almost always lose the sale. because nobody wants to buy from someone who just made them feel stupid or cornered. And if you're stuck in one of those two camps, what's the real long-term cost? It's not just a single lost deal. First, your closing ratio will end up in the gutter. You'll be spending hours and hours on the front end making calls, doing deep fact finding, running quotes, only to have the vast majority of your deals die right at the 1 yard line. It's incredibly inefficient and a massive waste of your most valuable resource, your time. Second, you start leaving an incredible amount of money on the table. Think about all of the multi-line policies, the life insurance, the disability insurance, the umbrellas you could have written if you just knew how to handle that first little bit of resistance. Your income stays flat while you watch other people at other offices who might not be even as good at the technical side of insurance as you are consistently crush their goals and beat you in production. You feel stuck, and that feeling of being stuck is one of the most stressful things a person can experience. And third, this is the most destructive part. You get frustrated and you burn out. You start to believe that you're just not good at closing. You lose your confidence. Every objection starts to feel like a personal rejection. You start to resent the job. You resent the leads, and you eventually might think about quitting altogether, all because you were never taught a real professional process for navigating the most critical parts of the sale. So, what are the common things agents try to do to fix this that never end up working? The most common false solution, as I mentioned from my own painful experience, is memorizing a bunch of clever sounding rebuttals and one-liners. You treat it like a debate club, thinking you can outsmart the prospect. But this just makes them defensive and kills any rapport you've built. Another huge one is immediately offering a discount or cutting coverage. The second they say that's a little more than I want to pay, the agent panics and jumps to, well, what if I lower the coverage? And all that does is completely devalue the initial recommendation. It instantly shows the prospect that you weren't confident in the plan you built for them, and it unfolds your deal faster than you can save it because they no longer trust your expertise. The last false fix is using old school high pressure tactics, trying to create false urgency or strong arming someone into a decision. This might work once in a blue moon on a certain type of customer, but it destroys trust and guarantees you'll never get a single referral from that person. It's a short-term, desperate move that absolutely kills your long-term reputation in your career. Now, before I get into the real framework, I want to give you something you can use immediately. I've taken all of the best objection handling lines, concepts, and frameworks from our internal training and put them into a single downloadable PDF that I call the top 10 objections and how to handle them. It's a quick hit guide that breaks down how to handle the most common objections you hear every single day. It's the perfect cheat sheet to keep on your desk when you're in the trenches making calls. The link is right in the description below this video. Go grab it. It's free. All right, so what's this real framework? How do you handle objections like a true professional? It's simple. The 4-step process that I call the AVFT method. This stands for agree, validate, fact find, and trial close. This process is designed to turn a confrontation into a conversation and an argument into an agreement. Step 1 is agree. This is the secret method. This is the move that changes the entire dynamic of the call. Whatever the objection is, your very first words have to be some form of agreement. If they say I need to think about it, your response is, of course, you should think about it. This is a big decision. I wouldn't expect you to take it lightly. If they say that's more than I'm paying now, you say, yeah, it's more. You're right. Agreement is like a Trojan horse. It makes the prospect feel heard, their defensive wall comes down, and it allows you to get your point across because now they're actually listening. When you agree with them, they can't argue with you. On the other hand, though, you have to stop saying, I understand, because that's what every other salesperson says. Start agreeing by saying, I get it, I'm with you, I hear you. But don't say I understand. Step 2 is validate. This is where you play detective and figure out if the objection is even real in the first place. Remember, the first objection you hear is often not the real one. It's just a smokescreen for the real issue. It might be a stall, or it might be a product objection disguised as a money objection. You have to validate every objection before you handle it. You can do this with a simple clarifying question like, I get it. When you say you want to shop around, what specifically are you hoping to find that we haven't covered? Or a powerful one is, what aspect of this do you need to think about? This flushes out any other potential objections and helps you find what's really going on so you don't waste your time and energy handling the wrong problem. Step 3 is fact find and reframe. Once you have what you think is a real objection, you need to ask more questions to understand where the prospect is coming from, and then use logic and the information from your initial fact finding to reframe the situation. This is not you versus them. You're on the same side of the table trying to solve a problem. If the issue is price, you can reframe it by breaking it down to a dollar per day amount, or you can reframe it with a hard question that creates a reality check. For example, if they don't want to increase their liability limits, you can ask, if someone injured or killed someone in your family, would you stop at 50,000? You use the facts from their own life that they gave you earlier to help them see the reality of their decision. You also have to believe in your recommendation more than they do. Whoever is more sold on their case wins every time. Step 4 is trial close. After you've agreed, validated the real objection, and reframed it with logic, you need to test the waters to see if you've actually handled it. This is when the trial close comes in. It's a question that doesn't exactly ask for their final commitment yet, it just helps you see how much mental ownership they have on what you're presenting. You can say something like, does that make more sense now? Or, seeing it that way, is there anything you would change about this plan? If they say yes, or it seems like they're on board, now it's time to go for the final close. If they're still hesitant, it just lets you know that you have to go back to fact finding to see where the disconnect is. And now you just repeat the cycle. Agree, validate, fact find, and trial close. This allows you to push without ever feeling like you're being pushy. How do I know this 4-step process works? Well, it's because it's the foundation of everything we do in our agency. It's not just a theory, it's a system that produces consistent, predictable results. For example, in our office, we write a financial service like life or disability insurance on a raw new auto lead 25% of the time. That doesn't happen because we're slick closers who have a magic rebuttal for everything. It happens because our upfront process, our deep fact finding, is so thorough that it prevents most objections from ever coming up in the first place. A good fact finding process is the ultimate objection handler. I had a team member one time whose production fell completely off of a cliff. He came to my office totally deflated. His confidence was shot, and he said, George, I don't know what's wrong. I think I forgot how to close. We sat down, looked at his activity numbers for the last 3 months. His call volume was the same. His contact rate was the same, but his notes on all the files seemed to lack life and health conversations. He wasn't having enough at-bats because he wasn't even trying. The problem wasn't his closing, it was his process. He was rushing. The second he refocused on the process and started doing deep fact-finding again, his production shot right back up. The AVFT framework isn't about being a bulldog, it's about being a doctor. You thoroughly diagnose the real problem before you ever think about prescribing a solution. Now let's get tactical. I'm going to walk you through the AVFT method on 3 of the most common deal-killing objections you hear every single day. Objection 1, I need to think about it. This is the classic stall. It's vague, polite, and designed to get you off the phone. Here's how you dismantle it. The wrong way to handle it is, okay, what's there to think about? This is argumentative and dismissive. The AVFT way is, first, agree. Of course, you should think about it. This is an important decision, and I wouldn't expect you to take it lightly. Step 2 is validate. You know, whenever I hear someone say they need to think about it, it usually means one of 3 things. You still have more questions, you don't have enough money, or you're just being polite and trying to get me off the phone. To be fair to both of us, which one of those is it for you? This is a powerful validation question that forces them to reveal the real issue. Then you can go to step 3, which is fact find and reframe. Let's say they admit that the real issue is money. Now you can fact find. I get it, and thank you for being honest with me. When you say you don't have the money, is it that you don't have it today, or is the overall monthly price the concern? When you have that answer, now you know what problem to solve. Step 4 is trial close. Once you solve the money issue by changing the due date or doing whatever had to be done, you can trial close by saying, okay, so if we can line up the payment for when you get paid next on Friday, does that solve the issue for you? Now let's go into objection 2. That's more than I'm paying now. This is where most agents panic and immediately start cutting coverage. Don't do it. The wrong way to handle it would be saying, okay, well, we can take some coverage off to get the price down. This devalues your recommendation and kills your credibility. The AVFT way is, first, agree. Yeah, it is more. You're right about that. Step 2 is validate and reframe by saying, but are we comparing the same thing? Let them answer, and if they need help, say, because with your current company, you have $100,000 in liability, which isn't enough to cover your assets. With this plan, we're protecting you for $1.5 million. Is protecting an extra $1.4 million of your family's future net worth paying a little more? Then you go to step 3, fact find with logic. If they're still stuck, use $1 per day to reframe it. Let's break it down. It's about $60 more per month. Do you think you could find another $2 per day to make sure that if you got into a serious accident, your family, your assets, and your income are protected so you don't lose everything you've worked for? Then you can go to step 4, trial close. A powerful trial close is a reverse question. Okay, I hear you. Would you consider less coverage to get the price down? At this point, 90% of the time, people will say no, which means now they're emotionally bought in on your recommendation from earlier. Now let's look at objection 3. I need to talk to my spouse. This one feels like a dead end, but it's usually not the spouse at all. It's the prospect's way of avoiding making a decision themselves. The wrong way to handle it would be, okay, well, when can I talk to both of you? Which gives up all control and ensures you'll never speak to them again. The AVFT way is step 1, agree. I get that completely. I would do the same thing. Makes total sense to talk to your spouse about a decision like this. And step 2 is validate. If we show this exact plan to your spouse, what do you think they would say about it? This is the magic question. It will do one of 3 things. They'll tell you the spouse will love it, in which case you say, great, let's get it started for them. Or they'll say, I don't know, in which case you can say, well, if they said no, does that mean you wouldn't want to leave them $1 million if you pass away to pay off the house and replace your income? Or the third thing they might do is bring up an objection that they have and pretend it's their spouse's. Now you have the real objection to work on. So then you can go to step 3, fact find and reframe. Let's say they say, my wife would say it costs too much. Now you know the real objection isn't the wife, it's the price. You can now go back to handling the price objection using the techniques we just discussed. And then you can go to step 4, the trial close. After handling the price, you can trial close with, okay, now that we've made it more affordable, is there anything else holding you back? Now that you have the framework, AVFT, agree, validate, fact find, and trial close, this process will allow you to handle any objection with confidence. But what if you could prevent most objections from ever coming up? The best way to handle objection is to have a solid sales process. That's why I want you to watch this next video I've linked right here on the screen. It's called The Best Insurance Sales Systems, the 6 questions versus the 5 fundamentals. In it, I break down exactly how to structure your sales conversation to get more sales by reducing the common objections that come up in the first place. Click the video on your screen to watch it now. And remember this, you don't help anybody until you close them. The only way that you'll leave more money to their family, be able to rebuild their home, or protect their assets and income is by closing them. Because pressure turns coal into diamonds, and a good process turns objections into commission checks. So grab the top 10 objections guide in the description, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next video.